Bonjour, bonjour, bonjour. Est-ce que je suis contente ce matin? Oui, mais je suis un petit peu timide ce matin. Et je fais des choses avec mes lèvres, ça, pour voir si ça se voit. Je fais mes yeux comme ça, pour voir si est-ce que c'est blanc. Perhaps not. Et je fais ça. Et ça doit compris tout. Pour, je pense que does it this way, the child. I did it this way. And if it has you see, un bag, non, je suis timide parce qu'il y a des gens qui passent et qui cherchent quelque chose. Et je ne sais pas. Now, the interest would be something over this, but it's les gens pensent, même les familles thief, pour mettre la vieille dame, perhaps en prison, or trancher dans une ditch. No one should know more. I suppose she becomes uninteresting quelque part. But est-ce que j'ai confiance sur my loins? Absolutely. And that's à côté de moi. Could be something matière first, this way not. This way would be quelque chose that kind of puts this on a man. But it's kind of, it says in Guyana stupidity, meaning that it's this there. And then it pulls, releases, et puis la personne dit, je ne veux pas pour être ami. So ce genre de choses says confidence. That's all. Now, he recognized my nose, so I do this part, and then she comes in. So the confidence ceases. I have been studying that type of grandma on that side from the time I was born, but it shuts in. So it cannot see to understand those things. And if man is seeking that in the next creation, epoch, then you have to be able to asset this part. And that part is kind of difficult, it seems, why we seem to trump the pay. And you would never know it's not La France. Why getting out was necessary. Example, somebody of a Joan of Arc. So once those things have been determined, the little girl chirps. Hurts. Yes, no. She chirps. Why this part of her could be lacking disc. Yes, no. Could sense animosity with this eye. And I guess if it sense animosity with that eye, it's this part they don't like. So if you don't like this part, the girl has to hesitate. Pense, qu'est-ce qui va pas avec an aspect of the universe that lacks that type of silver lining that soothes la planet and senses it as she starts to explore herself and explore to the world. And that part is quite damaging to this mom when she starts. I suppose somebody, there's lots of people who starts things and never finishes. I don't know between a pedophile or pedophile part of the earth that is pedophile could have people this way sitting next to the crown, and part of the people who knows of that type of titanium could people sitting this way who does this part, and part of this type of pedophile, part of this asset could be people who sits next to the crown this way. Oftentimes we are dealing with the beast, and I guess it has to be able to stick to really get to this type of legal matter of this type of egrets, and it does this to the child. Now, does it need to be activated? Absolutely not. It just positions her to do so. So a day that I am not positioned to do so, it's not going to work. So I guess would be something that pulls these things. So we probably do have a mechanism to do so, and we are blah blahing to nincompoops. I would say so. Now it chirps and realizes that I probably do that's why. And Angleterre, the Gothics of Angleterre, and these type of people. And yes, when it does it this way, they would not believe. So put that aside. They are kind of idiots in this type of OBR behavior. And oftentimes this investigation is trying to find out why would she surrender it. And it kind of sends animosity. So it has to deal with a blood you're suspecting. So that it sues when she's dead. So what will happen is this part of Saturn will be the discovered that's way, which is that's way. In other words, if I pointed to this part of nature, then it feeds the child with honey. So I would say that's a blasphemy. Why it kind of protrudes her auditives, and her auditives are really not ready based on this type of portrait of mom, but I wouldn't say it's mom. I probably hit the rocks of the bottoms, but just say it's kind of getting this they're thinking. So if you notice that this part here would be that disc right there, and I believe it's when you see the little girl, it's probably here in this part of me that it's always irritant. So I don't know, they spend all night ripping that apart. Something of this nature with this type of kind of critics comics in this type of Georgetown, and left a bloody eye on the screen. So that would do so if you're seeking that lady again. Now we're getting a gist of it this way, and I suppose that this way. So let's leave that a bit while they would find the blah and seek to put it somewhere. And we're not God. We have to realize that birth posed this way, so it would get back to this type of disc. Now once the disc moved like this way, the nose of the child protrudes, and it allows the girl to do things of this part here, of which perhaps only her family can, and it could sense an animosity more. And doesn't know how to react. She will do this. I know. And then you would realize, I know, and have to deal with it. So the girl would do this is a problem right here, and then gets this. So I cannot really judge that's part of that person. So it kind of comes this way you're thinking, and that's persecution. And oftentimes that type of persecution comes to kind of call the child. So I cannot sense that to be a problem, but I cannot get to this part of myself for them to be able to want to see boobs. So it kind of puts them that way, and she did not do so, so she probably has to today. So that's another dynamics, because when they're doing this, bothers their men. He has to make concessions, and those concessions seeks those type of illegality. If you're seeking for that part of the kingdom, it's this part, and that part sends to that sending point, it seems. Now once you get this, then I suppose Bornholm is being accused and is descending lines, and that brings us closer to that accusation of the Republic of Guyana, of what has been done. So this part will say how well we did go through it at the 7 ponds. So that type of bridge would lead to the disc of the child. It would lead to the disc of the child, that part here. And when it's here, I believe there's these type of mechanism that does it, of which certain eye can see. But when it gets to this point, nobody needs to see. So it's just this part, and this fruits. Does it get in? It does. If man seeks to get in, then we could note the criminals against them all this way. And once those are done, I suppose it's a never-ending process when it comes to every part of the universe who seeks to get to know the child. And the question is, are we questioning? I would say based on something in the background right there. Something like that right there could be why. And it gets to complex matter based on WATT and deals with it this way, they're thinking. So blah blah could have come to this way here. And when it stays there, once the girl is able to, why? Because I am right in this cafe in Madison where I needed to get some of these type of things charged up and get a meal. So once these things have been identified, this type of things to the child starts to chirp and releases this disc here, so that this can come in, and that achieves this type of Saturn walk. In other words, it slowly gets to this point and gets me back to probably a root of one of my ancestors, and it comes this way and not this way, net, and getting that is impossible. Now when it comes to where it's appropriate to live in this land based on the protocols, this mom probably left riparian court, and I think she left based on the disc she left, so that part is not transcending like that Tutala, so it recognizes it, that disc recognizes it, and oftentimes the nose protrudes more in case somebody sits there to be that presumptuous this way with blah. So if you're speaking those things, I guess somebody on that side portrayed a Negro boy who works at the store as a waiter. So we have gotten that part already. So this type of disc would put, and then it sends it into a realm of, I don't know, perhaps as like a ethnic civic minority, and it puts that person away for life. In other words, you have chosen to enter into this part of the universe and indeed. So I pull in when I'm feeling this comes in, and then it puts blah perhaps this way. If you're not fleeing at that point, then it becomes critical to identify it this way. You're not fleeing. It's not a power machine. It's danger for this planet. So put it there as the protocol, and you will commit that error. Why she is not this at all? She chirps all the time. So it says when it was scheduled to do these things as a child, she was chirping about the privacy of the white man. And once it does it this way, and they did not disclose of these things to the earth this way, then it puts a snare up. Go, I guess, a kind of trademark. Just put it there and leave it there. Now, once these things are done, and not to be only yet. So I think with what goes that way, she doesn't really speak in Diana, it seems. In Perica non plus, she gets into a hole, and probably these things here would seek it this way most of the time, and the rest they're gone. But knowing that she was, so oftentimes the chirp ceases for this type of knowledge, so it gets to this point and has to depend on this, and whatever this of nature is seeks to caress, and that caressing is not doing well. So I guess the pitchings in man is something of this nature, and that accusation is real based on the news of the child and should not be close to the child. And when I am quarreling about these stuff, it's outside of the disc, these people are realizing, but when it is, you are not faithful to this disc you are and putting the girl's things to get lost. Her shoe, she has a blister on her feet right now, and she's not handling that very well. Up, you may go now. Now, when it comes to this type of put, if they're suspected that part, then there's a part for the African Americans based on videos. Okay? So this type of video, if you're blocking these things, then outside of the land, in Sacramento, it could be working perfectly fine with the disc, or you're outside of the land. I cannot sensitize myself to it. It's not part of the disc. Now, that part, if I left based, I don't know if we have to mow up. Now, because of this, if it puts mow, then mow. Now, that's not part of the disc, so this shuts why it has to be able to be respectful of these things. Yes, no, the protocols have to follow. So this part, it has a little shirt and it pulls based on the disc. It gets hit really hard. So somebody could be showing that Blabber is doing this to man and makes perhaps the man was mad. So that should have been reported really quickly, and she did not do so. So it says that they are seeking to pay, and oftentimes I have to sense that I do have a prophecy suddenly, but if this alerts, then it's just the nose suspecting. So if you're seeking to see the nose, then I would have to take a plane and go. So this part of Guyana could be arrested at the airport. Why? The TCA says get out. So now they're putting that this has to be there and you don't have the protocols for it. But what are you seeking if you're going to get hurt? Then this had to be permanent with the child. So it cannot be why we have to deal with this here lacking. We have to deal with an eye that cannot be visual to certain things of man. An eye that says when I'm in my home and I am not coming up, there's a reason for those things. Yes, no, the protocol cannot really function, so they do this, they're suspecting. And this type of coolies of the upper society could have this going on in America and doesn't want to pay their dues that way. So it will say when you seek those things, you get backlash. Now, once I'm getting this type of disc, then these type of things could protrude in things. So in that type of New Amsterdam, that type of bistro could have had the girl on the disc and put the girl not to plug in there anymore. And because of that part there, they can have to be arrested. Now, it gets back to a little bit of this type of good getting away. And oftentimes, when she left based on the disc, when she gets there, she would see that type of pole, and that type of video would probably get this type of shirt based on it today. So if it does, it's a lie. Why she gets into the life of the passers-by. It gets into the life of the passers-by and affects the news of these type of whites. So in Sacramento, the girl is more quieter and very striking based on this part. Now when she seeks bistro, it probably chirps a bit. Why? They are probably very this part in food, and often very punctual with that type of ABS. So the ABS will not be moved this way, of which she has transits. This could be that right here, and this would be of Angleterre this way, and Burma. So when this is done this way, it cannot be removed. See, it can be based on finding the disc. So once those things are done, they would favor buttocks. They would have to go straight to England and live based on obeisance to that buttock. And this of Italy, it has to be determined in a minute. Now, because of it, they're not sensitive to the disc and it doesn't speak. And I would say, well, your actions is probably seeking this of the child this way to figure out lots of your land. So the buttock seeks those things, so it puts it against critics completely and senses that they don't see that lady, and having evidences that they do with the disc. So when you do, the disc could have been leaving the child in a very kind of authentic way, of which when it gets back, it gets brutal. If you're seeking that brutality, then you would use this of America, and that's something that is cyber telling you, get rid of your crescendo. So it puts it against mulattoes. These are not authentic based on the disc, so it goes to the DA's office and these type of judges and puts it in them. So once you're sensitive, the girl is sensitive, your criminal activities are too much. Now, when it comes back to Sacramento, it probably does the best. Now, I did not get to those parts based on this rising against the child. It seems why the nose peaks. So this part peaks on the left, see? So it kind of thinks that they do seem to have the lawyers. If the lawyers are of this nature, then this nature is this way. So where I would find this could be hiding in Guyana and have to devolve them first up, get to them. So let's hope type of Polynesian type boy based on tattooage is not hiding suspect, because I'm seeing he's a lawyer and the police could be hammering him. And oftentimes it reveals, I probably suspect that of the road, and that of the road could have a penchant for some things. And this wordlessness says, okay, cease. They are after you. And it kind of shakes. Now, if man seeks those type of things in the land of America, since why that Angelica would get arrested instead of foul pen. And once those are understood, the book comes after that part. And if you're kind of admiring these things, it's type of telling, Mom, that you are one hot sconce, perhaps. So I like that there. And it says, I know the Duracimo, and I know that I could not have this knot. That puzzles Mom. So her parallels could have been few and a little more godly, and this lacks those godliness in terms of she couldn't go to church based on that boy. See, he was not born, and as soon as his birth comes, this is removed, so he is not interested in it. And how do you get that there? It's his business, so it closes the door. Now, once those things are done, the girl will check that it could be registered in a kind of a Vorstellung, so it has to be able to move in critics. He's thinking, well, you have to be able to back off while you're seeking that lady. It's not anymore seeing the lady chirp this way. So to this lady, and sense that when it does it this way, that I probably do have a today to kind of cease, and I am thinking that I will be back perhaps another day. Why these things have to be reproposé? Well, and I have to sense that La France is this way. If I see this in him in that type of correspondent, well, he sensed that he has to be able to deal with a catastrophe. This would say too late. So those things has to have a this on him, this, and he doesn't have it. So if this comes to the child, then I think they're going to accuse La France of this part here, of this. If it's that part I slapped at that type of mom's house, then I probably have a building of this nature, lacking. In other words, she does not do real estate. So whoever the imposter, they have to be able to explain to this type of God, why would you do so? So if she senses that she accuses Macron, he doesn't want to listen, well, I think she have accused Trump, and he doesn't want to listen based on $1 million. If he comes this way, he says, well, he may go and leave her alone. So it sends animosity that his type of goe doesn't want to deal with the woman. He's a big man once, and he's the president of the United States. He's based on amnesty, diplomatic immunity, diplomats, foreign affairs. So up it goes. Now, because of this here, this man, the abuse of it is understood. But the girl, if you're seeking for her to understood, then she often gives a gesture, cut, and let them go. So oftentimes, if that's what Asia seeks, then it always gets to a point where this strikes. So if you're sensing that it doesn't like that, don't work for that. Work for what is pleasing to you. You like a nice car, you come in with your Volkswagen, then you don't like it. So dump that shit. So it puts people out thinking to say that they don't want the truth, and oftentimes that's another bigger based on what they're seeking to fight. So if you set this up this way, then who on this her would have to put her back there thinking, and there's no one to do so. This is years of this accusation, so it goes to the courts, it seems, and it seeks that. Now, this could be checking, are you there to throw her out based on, because in Georgetown, these type of people are going to be showing up. So the people of this nature, they're thinking, and forever. So if it's this, well, she would have that there, and the girl would say these three were of that authenticity, and they were not. So it senses animosity with this of America, and I would say that this of America, the Negroes work to demolish themselves on purpose, and has to sense that they're seeking big shots to dine with, and oftentimes become poubelles like this type of lady. So if they're sensing that they don't like it, then don't do it. So this gets there. So it will continue that demolition of Guyana today, and I suppose she gets really this way. And when I get off, I probably am seeking this here. If it's this, then I cannot know of the Negroes based on this type of view that we're having, like this type of view right there. I cannot know this type of thing. I cannot know of the Negroes. But the secrecy would say that we are probably seeking to peep personally at the child up. That's kind of a quite blah blah. I don't know if she's just one of these this part of Latin that has a low tolerance of this type of, this type of living, and putting the child there. They have to sense the smartness of the project demands. I cannot deal with that part based on this after, so I guess that it sends a message that somebody is there tackling. So those type of tackle would say this is what they faces in these places, in this part here, those type of pup, and it would be there at any screening. So when it does it that way, just sense that she has to work for her bodyguard and her pup, and oftentimes your pup will probably become my pup in that land, so you have to really be careful. It is not seen to be working that way because the circumstances didn't permit it to do so. I guess if they're seeking that, then what about the law? For example, I'm sensing what is this from Guyana, and if it couldn't transcend, then today could be quite authentic, seeking not to be. So what are you going to seek is to be like Pope also. Why? They are a never-ending coca, and up it goes to say they have their limits, they're thinking, and that limits hits. So it doesn't seem to want to transcend, but feeling these things. So why? Why the lie says figure it out. This, if she's saying figure it out this way, then it's what is it that she thinks often sends positive. I guess it's a figure that I cannot deal with that. So imaginatively speaking, the minds have to work and to seek the shot. What is she seeking next? This understanding because they could have come to this limit causes them it forever will because of this that they have done in Sacramento and they're suspected. So let's get back to this here. If they're trying to occupy it, well, I guess the store will be class. If they're seeking that part, then they find that if she does this, then that's the only way she will show to handle the project based on oftentimes whoever the chief was who did that part there. So if they're suspecting that it doesn't like those type of accusations not, then oftentimes it could position based on this law and squeeze after. So that's the type of thing is saying that it hurts really badly and doesn't consist of accusing this type of PC, that type of PC. And once those things are done, it has to be able to deal with things that pelt really. And if it does, then they probably seem to remove that of which they have put there. So her vindictive way says that she probably, I don't think she's net in there, the Amerindian boy says. What was there, the Amerindian boy says, I don't think she's net. So it puts her to figure out that you are not so. And nobody is so, and you don't want to surrender that. Now the girl will stop there, why it could transcend that there in another video type. And oftentimes based on this, not probably based on me. And we'll get back to it later. So the girl will do like somebody did. She did a foot. So she would use her this here, and this kind of guards the click for a minute of how she tries it. Represents that part. It kind of gave this a low like I am a big earlier, so slightly. So it's this way and recognize that it doesn't want to stop. So itself and up it goes to stay out of the conversation. Why it kind of seeks to work with the atrocious of the atrocious. So this could be the net only up and it gets back to nice click, which